My name is Brenda Doyle. I'm 28 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believed that being calm and reasonable could protect me from heartbreak. I believed that if you love someone hard enough, long enough, they would see the value in you, until that Friday night. I was on the couch, still in my work clothes, half listening to the hum of the refrigerator. My phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. I wasn't expecting anything. William never posted much, but when I opened it, my stomach turned to ice. There he was, William Collins. My boyfriend of 2 years, the man I'd lived with for 6 months, his arm wrapped tightly around Clara Miller, his ex. The caption read, "Some things never change." The rooftop bar was tagged. The timestamp was from 15 minutes ago. My throat went dry. 10 minutes later, a message came in from William at Tess's for Guys Night. "Don't wait up." That was the moment my body went completely still. Not in shock, not in anger, just an eerie, mechanical stillness. I stared at his message until it blurred, then opened the photo again. His hand rested on Clara's waist, the same way it used to rest on mine when we'd walk through weekend markets. The same easy smile, the same posture. Then another message. "BTW, we need to talk when I get home. You're sweet, but let's be honest. You're replaceable." Replaceable. That word didn't pierce like a knife, it landed like a diagnosis. Cold, clinical, final. My vision tunneled. For a second, I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Then something inside me, something small and tired, snapped into focus. I typed only 5 words. "Thanks for the reminder." Then I set my phone down. People expect screaming, crying, throwing things, but silence can be much more terrifying. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and made myself a sandwich. It wasn't hunger, it was control. Because when everything else collapses, control is survival. As I chewed, my mind began cataloging facts. William's stories, his little inconsistencies. Every Tuesday, he'd say he was consulting with a client. Every Thursday, helping his mom handle some real estate paperwork. Except Linda, his mother, had told me weeks ago she hadn't seen him on a weekday in months. Then there was the money. The mysterious crypto investments that somehow always required him to borrow from our joint account. The late-night calls labeled urgent work matters. And that one time I found an envelope of cash under his car seat, he'd said it was a payment from a freelance gig. The truth had been peeking out all along, but love makes you polite to red flags. Now I wasn't polite anymore. I opened my laptop, pulled up his LinkedIn profile. Collins Holdings, project manager. Then I searched for David Dalton, his boss. The company email format was simple, first initial, plus last name, plus at collinsholdings.com. I didn't write anything yet. I just stared at the blank draft for a while, watching the cursor blink. Maybe it was fate's cruel humor that William had always mocked me for overthinking. He'd say, "You plan everything, Brenda. Life's supposed to be spontaneous." But the truth is, planning is what kept me from falling apart. Planning was how I survived. The clock read 11:58 p.m. when I started packing. Quietly, methodically. My books, my sketch pad, my laptop, the coffee maker, I'd bought my clothes. It was shocking how little of our shared life actually belonged to me. As I folded the last sweater, I caught sight of his framed photo on the nightstand, us at the beach, arms around each other, smiling into the sunset. I left it there, a perfect picture of the lie I'd been living. For a moment, I let myself remember the good mornings, the laughter, the nights he'd hold me and whisper that I made him feel steady. He had meant it, I think, just not enough. When you love someone, you start believing their potential more than their actions. I had mistaken his apologies for progress, his excuses for effort. And now I was done. I zipped the suitcase, turned off the light, and stood by the window as the city lights blinked below. Somewhere out there, William was laughing at a rooftop bar with the woman he once swore was toxic. Maybe she was. Maybe they both were. My phone buzzed again. Another notification, Clara's story this time. A boomerang of their glasses clinking. Caption, "To second chances." I smiled. Not bitterly, just tired. Because if he thought I was replaceable, then he'd soon learn that some replacements come with consequences. I glanced back at my laptop. The blank email draft waited patient silent. In the subject line, I finally typed, "Concern about employee misconduct, William Collins." I didn't send it. Not yet. I just saved it in drafts. Sometimes the best revenge isn't immediate. It's prepared carefully, like a storm forming far away. As I crawled into bed, I whispered to myself, "Tomorrow you walk away." Then I closed my eyes and let the word replaceable echo in the dark, a word that once hurt me, now reshaped me. Because what William didn't know yet was that nothing stings a liar more than the truth told at the right time. The sunlight hit my face before the alarm did. I woke up with that strange kind of clarity that only comes after something irreversible. The quiet was heavy, but not unbearable. It was freedom, rehearsing its first breath. By 7 a.m., my suitcase sat by the door. I'd already called a friend from work who offered me her spare room for a few weeks. My plan was simple leave before William came home. No confrontation, no drama, just silence and distance. But the universe, as always, has its own sense of timing. The front door clicked open. I froze mid-step. William walked in wearing the same shirt from last night, eyes bloodshot, the smell of whiskey and perfume trailing behind him. His shock at seeing me awake, dressed composed, was almost comical. "Brenda, you're up early. Moving day tends to start early," I replied, my voice calm, measured. He frowned. Moving day. I gestured toward the boxes lined neatly against the wall. My things. I didn't want to leave a mess. He laughed softly, disbelieving. "Wait, you're serious?" "I'm very serious." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "You're being dramatic, Brenda. We had a fight. Couples fight." I tilted my head slightly. "We didn't have a fight, William. You made a declaration." "What declaration?" "That I'm replaceable." His face fell. "Oh, come on, I was drunk. You know how I get when—" "Honest," I cut him off. "Yes, I know." For a moment there was silence, thick, uncomfortable. I could feel him searching my face for weakness, that familiar spot he used to press when he needed me to forgive him. He stepped closer. "You don't mean this. You're not really leaving." "I'm not angry, William," I said quietly. "I'm done." That stopped him. The words seemed to land differently, like he finally realized I wasn't bluffing. He pointed at the boxes. "You're throwing away everything 2 years." I smiled faintly. "Funny, that's exactly what you did last night." He sighed, exasperated. "You're overreacting." It was one mistake. I was catching up with Clara, that's all. She texted out of the blue. I folded my arms. "And your caption, 'Some things never change.' That wasn't about catching up. That was about nostalgia and opportunity." He blinked. "You saw that?" "Yes, William, along with half the city." He groaned. "This is ridiculous. She means nothing to me." "Maybe not," I said softly, "but the version of you that lied to me does." His voice hardened. "You're seriously walking out over a stupid post." I looked him dead in the eye. "No, William. I'm walking out because that post showed me who you've been all along." He stared, unblinking. "You can't just throw away everything we built together." I laughed quietly. "What did we build exactly? I paid for the rent. I handled the bills. I fixed your car when it broke down. I believed in every plan you abandoned halfway. What part of that was we?" For a second, the mask cracked. His jaw tightened, his pride stung. "You'll regret this," he muttered. "You're not as perfect as you think." "I never claimed to be. I just don't lie for sport." He took a step back, maybe realizing I wasn't going to cry or beg. That was what unsettled him most, the quiet. William thrived on chaos, on arguments that could be twisted into apologies. But I wasn't playing anymore. I zipped my suitcase and walked past him. He followed me to the door, voice trembling between anger and fear. "So that's it?" he asked. "That's it. You'll come crawling back." "I won't." He scoffed. "Good luck finding someone who will tolerate you. You're cold, controlling. No one wants that." I paused, hand on the doorknob. "Then it shouldn't take long for you to find someone warmer, should it?" I stepped outside before he could respond. The morning air hit me crisp, clean, unfiltered. For the first time in months, I felt the difference between peace and comfort. Comfort can hide rot. Peace doesn't lie. As I loaded my car, I thought of all the little things I'd done for him. The lunches packed, the reminders, the soft reassurances he took for granted. I almost felt sorry for him until I remembered his smirk in that photo. No, I didn't owe him pity. He came out one last time as I was closing the trunk. "Where are you even going?" he asked, voice small now. "Somewhere you can't find me." "Brenda, don't do this. I'll fix it. I'll block Clara. I turned to him. "You can't block who you are, William." His mouth opened, but no sound came out. I gave him one final look, not out of love, but closure. "Take care of yourself," I said, "and of all the lies you've told. You'll need to keep them straight." His face drained of color. "What does that mean?" I didn't answer. I slid into my car and drove off, watching him fade in the rearview mirror. My hands were steady on the wheel, my chest strangely light. At the first red light, I pulled out my phone and opened the email draft I'd saved last night. The subject line glowed on the screen, concern about employee misconduct. William Collins. I read it one more time. The evidence I'd gathered over months was attached screenshots, timestamps, inconsistencies, all of it. For 8 months, William had been bragging about working from home to handle client deals. But those deals were personal side hustles done on company time using company resources. He even used his corporate laptop for his illegal crypto trades. I thought of every time he'd looked me in the eye and lied confident I'd never question him. Then I hit send. No anger, no satisfaction, just silence. Because revenge isn't loud. It's precise. And when the truth finally lands, it doesn't explode, it echoes. I pulled over by a quiet cafe, ordered coffee, and stared at the city waking up. The morning felt like a new language I was just beginning to learn. Tomorrow maybe I'd feel sad, but right now I just felt clean. Monday morning started with the sound of my phone vibrating nonstop on the nightstand. At first I thought it was an alarm until I saw the notification banner, William Collins. 12 missed calls. By the time I unlocked the screen, there were texts stacked one after another, each more frantic than the last. William. What did you do, William? My boss just called me in. William, Brenda. This isn't funny. William. Answer me. I didn't. I sat at the edge of the bed, holding my coffee, watching those messages come in like static white noise that no longer touched me. He must have checked his email that morning and found the one I sent to his company. The one outlining 8 months of deceit. Screenshots of his side business communications, proof of consulting meetings that were really unlicensed trading sessions during work hours. I hadn't lied. I'd simply stopped pretending not to see the truth. By 9 a.m., the messages shifted tone. William, please, they're asking for documentation. I could lose my job. William, I know it was you. Please, Brenda, let's talk. Then another name appeared, Clara Miller. Clara. Hey, this is Clara. I know things are messy, but ruining his career, that's too far. He's having a panic attack. Please call him back. My thumb hovered over delete, then I did it no reply, no reaction. It was strange watching them scramble. For months I lived on edge, tiptoeing around William's moods, apologizing for catching him in lies. Now the power balance had flipped quietly like gravity changing direction. I opened Instagram out of morbid curiosity. William's last post, the rooftop photo with Clara, was gone. Replaced with a black screen and the caption, "Sometimes we lose things to learn who we are." The comments were brutal. Someone had already linked a Reddit thread about workplace misconduct at Collins Holdings. So word was spreading. My phone buzzed again. This time the name made me pause. Linda Collins, William's mother. I hesitated before answering. I'd always liked her. She'd been kind to me, even sent me handwritten cards on my birthday. "Brenda, honey," she said, voice trembling. "What on earth happened?" William's beside himself. "He said you're trying to destroy him." I took a deep breath. "Hi, Linda. I'm not destroying anyone. William destroyed himself." There was silence, the kind that feels like a held breath. She finally said, "He made mistakes, I know. But people make mistakes in love. Don't you think this has gone too far?" "Too far," I repeated softly. "He's been lying to his employer for almost a year, stealing time, faking reports, funneling money through side trades. That's not a mistake, Linda. That's fraud." Her voice wavered. Fraud is such an ugly word. So are deceit and betrayal. For a second, I almost felt cruel. But then I remembered how he'd looked at me that night, smirking into his phone as he texted Clara while lying about being with friends. How he'd said, "You're replaceable," like I was an accessory he'd outgrown. Linda sighed. I don't want his whole life ruined over one bad decision. "That's exactly what happens when you keep calling decisions mistakes," I said quietly. "They pile up until someone finally calls them by their real name." She didn't reply, only exhaled a long, defeated breath. Before hanging up, I said gently, "You raised a charming man, Linda, but charm without conscience becomes manipulation. I hope he figures that out." When I hung up, my hands were trembling, not from guilt, but from release. Around noon, a notification popped up, new message from Clara Miller. Curiosity 1, I opened it. "You think you know him, Brenda?" "You don't. He's made mistakes, sure, but you're not innocent either. You used him too. You liked the comfort he gave you. Don't act like a saint now." I almost laughed. The irony of an ex-girlfriend defending the same man who'd once cheated on her was poetic. I typed one sentence in reply. "Comfort built on lies isn't comfort, it's collateral damage waiting to happen." Then I blocked her. That afternoon, my coworker Tess stopped by my desk. She'd been one of the few people who knew the full story. "You look terrifyingly calm," she said, sliding a coffee cup toward me. "Did you really send the email?" I nodded. Tess whistled under her breath. Girl, that's some main character energy right there. I smiled faintly. I'm not the villain, Tess. I just stopped protecting one. We both fell silent, sipping our coffees. Outside, the rain started tapping against the office windows, soft, steady cleansing. By evening, William's calls had stopped. Instead, there was just a final text. I hope you're proud of yourself. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Because I wasn't proud. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was free. As I sat there in the dim office light, I realized something. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about balance. For months, William had built his life on lies. I simply reintroduced gravity. And gravity, once it remembers you, always pulls the truth back down. It had been 4 days since I sent that email. 4 days of eerie calm, like the quiet after a storm, but before the floodwater reveals what it's destroyed. Thursday morning, I walked into the co-working studio where I'd been freelancing. My laptop bag still smelled faintly of lavender detergent freshly washed, like I was trying to cleanse the last trace of him. Tess looked up from her desk and whispered, "You've got a visitor." My pulse spiked. Who? She jerked her chin toward the glass door. Clara Miller stood outside, arms crossed, sunglasses on her, expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. Then she knocked once sharp, impatient. I opened the door, meeting her stare head on. "Can I help you?" She smiled tightly. "You can give me 5 minutes." "I don't think we have anything to talk about." "Trust me," she said. Stepping closer, "You'll want to hear this before you paint yourself as some moral hero." Her tone was syrupy, practiced the same tone William used when he was about to manipulate. I gestured toward a side table in the lobby. 5 minutes. We sat. She removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes swollen from lack of sleep. "He's a wreck, you know. Lost his job yesterday. The investigation turned ugly. They're going through his bank records, his personal laptop, everything." I kept my voice neutral. "Then they'll find what they need." "You did this," she hissed. "You think you're righteous, but you destroyed him. And for what? A stupid photo." I took a slow breath. "Clara, I didn't destroy William. I revealed him." Her jaw tightened. "You always thought you were better than him, didn't you?" "No," I said calmly. "I thought he could be better. Turns out I was wrong." She let out a low laugh, cold and bitter. "You think you're so clever, but you have no idea how deep this goes." I frowned, meaning. Clara leaned in, lowering her voice. "Those consulting sessions you exposed, you were part of them. His transfers half were tied to your shared account. You benefited from his work even if you didn't know it. They could investigate you too." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" She smirked. "He told me everything. How you designed invoices for his clients, how you let him use your design account to bill under your name. That's money laundering, sweetheart. If the company digs, you're tangled in it too." For a second, I couldn't breathe. My mind raced back to the nights William had asked me to help mock up something quick for his freelance client. Simple branding templates, invoice layouts. He'd said it was for his cousin's small business. I hadn't thought twice. I clenched my fists. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" she asked softly. "He said you kept copies. And if the investigators find them..." She let the sentence hang like a noose. Her smile widened. "Maybe don't get too comfortable thinking you're the hero. The truth burns everyone standing too close." I stood abruptly. "We're done here." She rose too, towering an inch above me in her heels. "I'll make sure William knows you're scared. Maybe then he'll stop blaming himself." I didn't reply. I walked back inside, keeping my steps steady until the glass door shut behind me. Then I leaned against the wall and exhaled shakily. Tess appeared at my side. What did she want? To remind me that even when liars fall, they try to drag someone down with them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled up my old emails, scrolling through attachments, mock invoices, design templates, expense reports I'd created for William. They looked harmless, but now, through Clara's words, they glowed like evidence of my own stupidity. At 2 a.m., I called an old college friend, Leah, who'd become an attorney. She picked up on the second ring. "Brenda, it's been years." "I need advice," I whispered. "Legal advice." After I explained, there was a pause. Then Leah said, "If what you're saying is true, you need to protect yourself immediately. Forward everything to yourself. Keep timestamps, and contact his company before he spins the narrative. What if they already think I'm involved? Then transparency is your armor. The faster you come forward, the safer you are." Her words steadied me. For the first time since Clara's visit, my panic turned into purpose. By sunrise, I drafted a short factual message. Subject clarification regarding William Collins' freelance activities. "Dear Mr. Dalton, I was recently made aware that some design work I completed for William Collins may have been misused in his personal business dealings without my knowledge or consent. I am prepared to cooperate fully and provide all documentation to support this. Best Brenda Doyle. I stared at the send button for a long moment. Then I clicked it. Within the hour, I received a reply. Thank you, Ms. Doyle. We'll be in touch shortly. The next afternoon, the company's legal department called. They'd already found evidence of embezzlement totaling $12,000, unauthorized expense reimbursements, falsified reports, misused funds. They assured me I wasn't implicated. My emails proved I'd been a bystander. But they asked me to submit an official statement for their internal report. When I hung up, relief flooded through me so hard I nearly cried. William had built his entire existence on a web of lies so thick it didn't collapse quietly, it imploded. And now the same company he'd exploited was using my honesty as part of the cleanup. I opened my journal that night and wrote one line across the page. The truth doesn't just reveal, it protects. Still, I couldn't shake Clara's final words. The truth burns, everyone standing too close. She was right about one thing. When you play with fire, even justice leaves scars. By Friday morning, the fallout was complete. I woke up to a flood of notifications, texts, news alerts, social media mentions, all orbiting the same topic: Collins Holdings employee under investigation for fraud. William's name wasn't in the headline, but anyone who knew him didn't need it to be. The details were specific enough: mid-level project manager accused of falsifying expense reports under review for embezzlement of over $12,000. I stared at the article for a long time, not out of satisfaction but disbelief. It was surreal watching consequences unfold in real time, detached yet intimate, like seeing a stranger wear your old clothes. Tess knocked lightly on my door. You've seen it. Yeah, I said, my voice flat. She leaned against the frame. You okay? I hesitated. He once said the universe has a sense of humor. I guess this is the punchline. Tess gave me a sympathetic smile and left me with a fresh cup of coffee. The smell of roasted beans filled the tiny apartment, a smell that used to remind me of him. Now it smelled like freedom. At noon, my phone buzzed again. A new number. I almost ignored it until I saw the name Linda Collins. I answered. Brenda, she said softly. I don't know if you've heard. I have. He was terminated yesterday afternoon, she continued, voice trembling. They escorted him out. There's going to be a hearing. The police might get involved. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, Linda. I know you didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, but maybe this is what he needed. Her voice cracked. You know I told him once that losing you would break him. He said you were too predictable, that you'd always forgive him. I swallowed hard. He was right, until he wasn't. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just the quiet hum of regret between two women who'd both believed too much in the same man. Before she hung up, she said softly, Thank you for telling the truth. It's something none of us had the courage to do before. When the call ended, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my half-unpacked suitcase. The silence felt different now, less heavy, more final. Later that day, I went through the remnants of our life together. A chipped mug, a few old notes, photos stored in cloud folders. I deleted most of them, but I kept one picture taken on our second anniversary. He had his arm around me, looking straight at the camera. I looked away, laughing. I didn't keep it because I missed him. I kept it because it reminded me of who I used to be, the woman who thought love meant patience instead of reciprocity. That evening, Tess and I walked down to a small bar near the river. I hadn't gone out since the breakup, but tonight I wanted noise. Life. The opposite of William's shadow. She raised her glass. To the truth finally catching up. I clinked mine gently. To surviving it. The next morning, I woke to another email, this one from David Dalton, William's former boss. Subject, thank you. Ms. Doyle. Your cooperation has been invaluable. I wanted to personally inform you that our investigation confirmed Mr. Collins's misconduct extended beyond what we initially suspected. Your integrity helped us uncover embezzled funds and prevent further damage. We'd like to offer you a short-term consulting position, assisting our compliance department. Thank you again. David Dalton Collins Holdings. I reread it 3 times. A consulting role. The irony wasn't lost on me. William had built his lies pretending to consult. Now I was being asked to do it legitimately. I smiled to myself, then typed a reply. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not looking to return to that chapter of my life. I'm glad the truth came out, and that's enough for me. Brenda Doyle. When I hit send, I felt something deep inside settle into place. Not joy exactly, just peace, like a door quietly closing after too long left ajar. Around sunset, I took a walk by the lake near my apartment. The air was cool, carrying the smell of rain and wet concrete. I found an empty bench and sat down watching the light fade over the water. For months, I'd imagined what revenge might feel like, what it would be like to see William fall. But standing here in this calm, I realized it wasn't revenge I'd been chasing, it was balance. He had taken and taken until there was nothing left to give. Reporting him didn't destroy him, it just ended the imbalance. As I watched the reflection of the streetlights ripple across the lake, I whispered to myself, sometimes the truth doesn't set you free right away. Sometimes it just burns the cage down. Then, for the first time in a long while, I smiled, not out of victory, but out of survival. I wasn't replaceable, I was renewable. A week later, the world felt quieter, or maybe I'd just stopped listening to the noise. The investigation was public now. William's name had made its way into every corner of the internet that loved a scandal. Former coworkers whispered his social media disappeared, and Clara had scrubbed her accounts clean, pretending she'd never known him. I hadn't posted anything, I didn't need to. Silence, I'd learned, tells the loudest story. That morning, I sat by my apartment window with a cup of coffee and an open notebook. The page was blank, but for the first time in months, that didn't scare me. It felt like possibility, not emptiness. My phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. Is this Brenda Doyle? This is David Dalton from Collins Holdings. I wanted to thank you again. We've completed the investigation. William Collins will be facing charges. The company recovered part of the stolen funds thanks to your cooperation. He went on to say they'd uncovered false expense claims, fake vendor invoices, even a personal credit card scheme. The total amount nearly triple what they first suspected. David offered to send a small consulting fee for my help. I politely declined, because some victories aren't meant to be cashed in, they're meant to be walked away from. After ending the call, I sat there for a long time watching a leaf drift past the glass. For months, I'd obsessed over justice over him, over everything he'd taken. But the truth was, the real gift wasn't revenge. It was the reminder that I still had myself. By afternoon, I decided to go for a walk downtown. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and street coffee, the kind William used to insist was too sweet. I laughed quietly at the memory. Freedom even tastes different when you've earned it. As I walked past the bookstore, a voice called out, "Brenda!" I turned. It was Leah, my attorney friend, carrying a tote bag and looking effortlessly composed. "You look lighter," she said, smiling, like someone who just deleted a virus. That's one way to put it. We grabbed coffee and talked for an hour about work travel plans, the small, strange joys of solitude. When we said goodbye, she hugged me and whispered, "You did the right thing. Don't ever doubt that." That night, I cooked dinner alone. No background arguments about bills or deadlines. No passive-aggressive sighs from the couch. Just music, candlelight, and quiet. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. I hesitated, then opened it. "Hey, it's Linda, William's mom. He's in therapy now. He's been charged, but maybe this is what he needed. I just wanted to say thank you. You were the first person who ever held him accountable. We should have done that years ago." I sat back, letting the message sink in. There was no satisfaction, no triumph, just peace. The kind of peace that comes after a storm when all that's left standing are the things that were strong enough to survive. I typed a short reply. "I hope he gets better, Linda. We all deserve a second chance, just not always with the same person." I put my phone face down. Later, as I closed my laptop, I saw something on social media that made me pause a new account under William's name. Only one post, a single photo of an empty desk with the caption, "Starting over." Comments were disabled. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered the night he'd called me replaceable and how that word had set everything in motion. He was wrong. I was never replaceable. He just never deserved to know what it felt like to lose me. A week after that, I met someone new completely by accident. I was at the gym waiting for a treadmill when the guy next to me smiled and said, "You can take mine. I'm done torturing myself." He was tall, kind-looking, the kind of calm energy that doesn't need attention to feel confident. We chatted for a while. Before leaving, he asked coffee sometime. I smiled, "Sure, but we're splitting the check." He laughed. "Deal." And just like that, not with fireworks, not with fanfare, but with quiet certainty, life began again. That night I wrote one last entry in my journal. He called me replaceable, but in the end, the only thing he lost was the version of himself I once believed in. The truth didn't just destroy him, it rebuilt me. I closed the notebook and placed it on the shelf beside my new favorite mug, the one I'd bought for myself. Then, as the city lights flickered outside, I whispered, "Not to William."